Hola mis pollas. So today this video is going to be very different. I did ask you guys what is it that you guys wanted to see as my first video this year. So I gave you guys choices, either a makeup tutorial, favorites video, or a story time. I looked up what story times meant and I was like really procrastinating in what I should start as my first ever story time. So I decided to go ahead and start with my bullying story. So if you want to know how is it that I dealt with the bullying that I experienced, then keep on watching.
Es que me diste la polla.
I want to say and start off by saying that I am by no means putting anyone on blast here. I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. And I also do want to say that if any of my bullies follow me, please don't take this personal, but this was real life stuff. And I do want to help out those that are getting bullied now. So please don't take it personal. And I do want to say that this is what I did go through. When I was in 3rd, 4th grade, I do want to say that I used to get bullied a lot by the way that I dressed, or my mom dressed me. My parents couldn't afford certain things for me, and it was very hard for them to keep me up with the fashion that a lot of kids wore when they were in that age. And when you're in those grades, I swear, like, a lot of the kids they're very visual, like everybody's very visual. We start like, you know, like kind of seeing things way more to a deeper level, but still with a very immature mind. And I was getting bullied because I used to wear fake brands. Of course, in those days, I didn't know my parents' situation or why they didn't buy me real things, real brand things, for example. Now I laugh at it because I'm like, damn, I used to wear those fake Fat Farms. I don't know if you guys remember the fake Fat Farms, but I'll put a picture of it right here. But those Fat Farms were in style, and I remember that I asked my parents for some, and I was like, oh my god, mom, dad, please buy me these shoes that everybody's wearing. I don't remember if it was in 5th, 6th grade or when I went to middle school. I don't remember, but I do remember that they did come out with some fake Fat Farms, and the way that you could tell that they were fake is because the P was the other way. And I didn't see that. I didn't have knowledge of that. But I do remember that we went to the flea market and my parents were like, are these the shoes that you want? And I was like, oh my god, they are. But I never had that in mind that, you know, they were fake. So they bought me those Fat Farms, and with all of the confidence that you guys can think of, I took them to school, and the first person that noticed was a like, I'm not gonna say, but it was a black person, you know, like the black people, I feel like, I'm not being racist or nothing, but I feel like they know more about Jordans, like what's fake and what's not fake. Filipinos too, they are on like the top of like all of these brands, you know. And I remember one specific person told me like, oh, like you're wearing are those fake Fat Farms? Oh my god. And then I was like, no, they're not fake. And then he was like, yeah, they are, because the P, look at the P, they're like the other way. But since they were all white, I never saw that defect on the shoes. And in that, like, I remember that day I was like, when I get home, I swear I'm gonna go off on my parents because they bought me fake Fat Farms, and maybe they just didn't want to afford the real deal Holyfield, you know. But it wasn't even like that. Like, now that I'm older, I realized that my parents couldn't afford certain things for me, and they couldn't keep up with so many things that they wanted to buy me, but they were just having a hard time, you know. Like they were having a hard time to the point that they couldn't afford certain things because we were semi-poor, you know. And I didn't know that in those days, and my parents would buy me fake Jordans and all of that, and it was just so hard for me because I used to get bullied by that, but I never knew until somebody pointed it out. And that's how I started getting bullied, by the way I dressed and the fake brands I would wear. Then after that, I used to go to, of course, elementary school. Elementary school was very hard on me because, you know, you're starting to get to that age where girls shave their legs, you do your eyebrows, you start getting rid of like all those facial hairs that are starting to come out because we're becoming, we're kind of going to puberty or whatever. So it was very hard for me, especially when I used to go into my PE class because we had to wear shorts. And my dad, like I said, was very strict, and he did not let me shave my legs or even do my eyebrows or no things like that he would let me, because he was just like, nope, you're gonna be doing those kind of things until you're 15. You can't shave your legs, you can't shave your your arms, because I had very hairy arms. And in elementary school, I used to get really bullied, very, very bullied, by the fact that everybody would make fun of my facial hairs. And I felt way more insecure because I was like, oh my God, like literally, like what should I do about this? Like I would just eat all of my sadness and my anger with other people, you know, like that would make fun of the fact that I wouldn't shave my legs, my arms, or even take out my unibrow, because I used to have a unibrow, mis pollas, and it was so hard for me, and I used to get laughed at every single time, especially on in my PE class, and it was so hard for me. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I feel like that's why I didn't have a lot of friends. I did enter middle school. Middle school got even harder for me because I was still that young girl that, you know, I respected my dad to the fullest. I respect my dad till now. So you know, there was just so many things that I respected my dad in. That's why I prefer to get bullied than to disrespect my father. So I was still with my hairy legs, my hairy arms, my unibrow, you know, my mustache full blown. You don't even know, I was so hairy. And, you know, like it was horrible, because in middle school, literally, like all of the girls are, you know, the pretty girls that, you know, they're on their game of looking for a guy. You start dating and all of that. So I used to get 100 times way more bullied. I feel like in middle school, a lot of the kids are very cruel in the way that they say what they think and what they want to say. They just say it in your face, and they don't care about your feelings or anything like that. I do feel like a bully starts off by their own household, in the way that if the parent is making them have a bad time, or if they're getting mistreated, they kind of want to go do that to a kid at their school. So I didn't understand that before, because, you know, like I had the mentality of a little girl still. And it was so hard for me because I literally would hate PE. So there was this, in winter we would wear sweats, and during the summer and spring we would have to wear shorts, of course, you know. So I remember that even if it was like 100 degrees, mis pollas, or so hot, I would wear sweats. And my PE teacher would always call me out on that and would tell me that, like, why was I wearing sweats if it was so hot? And I remember that I always used to tell my PE teacher that I did that because I forgot my shorts, you know. And I was like, I don't want to get written up if I don't wear my PE clothes, so that's why I'm wearing my sweats. I'm going to be fine with it. Plus, I'll sweat even more, and that way, you know, like the exercises that they would make us do. So I was like, that's why I'm wearing my sweats. But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was because I didn't want no one to see my hairy legs, you know. So they would call me out on that a lot, and the way I dealt with it, I just ate all that. I ate all of my sadness, all of my depression, and I just kept it in. And yes, when I would come home, I would feel very insecure and would be like, what should I do? Should I be rebellious and just like shave my legs, shave my arms, tell my mom to take me to go do my eyebrows? Like, what should I do? And I would just eat all that anger and that depression and all of that and just deal with it. And I was like, I didn't understand in those days, because you just have that mentality, like you just want to fit in, and it's so hard. One of the hardest times when I used to get bullied has to be in high school. High school was so hard for me. It all started on my freshman year. So when I graduated from middle school, I used to hear all these stories that when you went to high school, times were going to get more rough and kids bullied kids way more. So that really scared me a lot, especially because I was a victim of getting bullied. You could kind of say ever since I was young. So I was so scared to go into high school. I was like, oh my God, like I would hear these stories like, once you became a freshman, like the seniors would either try to give you a really hard time because you're like, that's your welcoming to the high school. So I heard this story that there was this one kid that, he was a freshman and they put him in the trash can upside down. He couldn't get out of the trash can. And it was just little things like that I would hear, and it scared me so much, and I was such in fear. Instead of me being excited of going into high school, I was so scared of starting high school. So I was like, Jesus Christ, like, how am I going to do it? Like, how am I going to overcome this? But I never had the mentality like, I could do this. Let's get this over with. But it was 4 years that I had to like think about, and I went into high school with so much fear, and just how I thought it went. Before I tell you guys what is it that I went through in high school, I want to read you guys this that I looked up, because I was like, let me check how many kids get bullied a year. So it says over 3.2 million students are victims of bullying each year. Approximately 160,000 teens skip school every day because of bullying. 17% of American students report being bullied 2 to 3 times a month or more within a school semester. Let me just say that when I read that, I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing about the situation so the numbers can go down? So when I became a freshman, I want to say that on my first few months, everything was going smooth. It was a pretty good, first few months. And I was like, oh, this isn't as bad. The classes are a little hard because, like you go into a different atmosphere, but I was kind of getting used to the routine, kind of getting used to the people that surrounded me. It was a very exciting thing for me once I started in the few months. But there were one of my cousins that used to go to that school, and, I sometimes did kick it with her, but most of the times it was just like me and Paola. Paola was one of my friends as well. But we used to have very different scheduling of classes, and it was just something that it was really hard for me. But overall, it was okay for the few months. Then after that, 2 girls started bullying me. I used to meet Paola so we can kind of like walk to our classes. They were in very different directions, but I do remember that we always used to meet in front of the library of West High School. And I remember that one time I was all like, checking myself out in front of the high school library, and I was checking myself out, and then one of my friends, his name was Daniel Benavides, he came up to me and he was like, hey, who are you waiting for? Because I did used to have semi-friends, but it was just like hi bye and not, you know, full blown conversations. So my friend Daniel came through and he was just like, hey, are you waiting for Paola? And I was like, yeah, I'm waiting for her. We started talking. I have no idea what we started talking about, but I remember that this girl came up and, you know, I was still checking myself out while talking to Daniel. And I just mentioned someone's name, but his name was Daniel. He doesn't even watch my YouTube channel. I don't think he does, but he didn't do anything wrong. But he was like right there talking to me. And then after that, I was still checking myself out. And all of a sudden, I just feel like a big push, a big push. And I remember that I fell on the ground. So I was like literally like shocked. And I was like, somebody just pushed me, you know, like you just, things happen so fast that you just don't even process it. But I remember that these girls just started laughing and they were just like, you know, like, go tell your mom to stop talking crap about us. Like, it was way more like violent words, but I don't want to say them here on my YouTube channel. But they were like, go tell your mom to stop talking crap about us because blah, blah, blah. You know, like she said this, she said that. And I had no idea what these two girls were talking about. Like literally no idea. I was friends with one of them in middle school for a little bit. And I don't know what is it that happened. Till this day, I don't even know what is it that supposedly my mom said about them. But I remember that that was the first time that I got bullied by them. So I wanted to kind of show that I didn't have fear. So I used to keep waiting for my best friend there in front of the library. And I went again. They pushed me again. This time it was way harder, like way worse. They kept doing that to me. They were sisters actually. So the two girls were sisters and they pushed me again. And you know, sad thing is, mis pollas, that the girl that does my hair, Beauty by Mar, the one that does my hair, she said that the way she remembers me from high school is that I was literally always crying. That is the way she remembers me. That's the way that she said that she remembered me from high school. And she's like, all I can think of you in high school is how much I seen you cry. Every single time that I would see you walking, you were crying. That devastated me. I was like, oh my God, like that's very true, huh? Like I used to always cry so much. So I remember that, you know, I got tired and fed up of me getting bullied, and I felt like I needed to talk to someone besides Paola, besides anyone, you know. And I feel like Paola was a little scared too, of those girls, because when I used to tell her my stuff, like I do remember that she used to just tell me that, oh, everything's gonna be okay, like don't worry, they're gonna get tired of bullying you, so this is just temporary, it's gonna pass by, you know, but you need to talk to your mom and ask her what is it that she's saying about those two girls that it's bothering them so much, you know. You guys need to sit down and talk with those two girls and their mom present, or her parents present, and you and your mom and your dad. So I was like, no, I'm scared. I don't want nothing to happen to my parents if those girls like see that, you know, like I go and kind of snitch on them how they're treating me. I ended up talking to my mom, and I told her, I remember I came home crying one time and I was like, Mom, I need to talk to you. And she was worried because she's like, why are you crying? What's wrong? And I was like, Mom, it's been a week ever since I've been getting pushed and bullied at school. And she told me, oh my God, are you okay? Did they do anything drastic? Like, you have any bruises? Did they beat you up or something? And I was like, no, I'm okay. It's just that they're pushing me and I'm kind of like falling on the ground and stuff. And they're just being very, I don't want them to get more violent with me. And I mentioned her who these two girls were, and obviously she knew who they were, because my mom, till this day, she's best friends with this one lady, that lady knows those two girls' mom, and they would get invited to parties that my mom's best friend would invite her to, and they were there. That's how I kind of started talking to one of the girls, like the younger girl, and that was like my age, you know. So that's how my mom knew the girls and who exactly they were. So I talked to my mom, and I was like, Mom, I need to really know if you said anything about them, because when they start pushing me, they tell me to go come tell you to stop talking things about them to other people. And she was like, what is going on? Like, I have never talked about those girls, you know. Obviously I was gonna believe my mom, and I was like, did you ever say anything to your best friend? Did you ever make a rude comment about them? Like, I just want to know the truth. I'll accept it if you did, you know, like we can go and apologize to their house, or I don't know, something that will make them stop them bullying me, you know. So my mom was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So my mom calls my her best friend, and she was like, can you please give me so and so's address, that way we can go talk to them, because this has been this started to bother me, that they're starting to bully Miriam, you know. So her best friend gave her the address, and actually they lived really close to us. And I remember that we went to go knock at their door, and the mom, for some reason, their mom didn't want the dad to listen to the drama. So I remember that we were all talking in their garage. The mom brought the two girls into the garage, and then we started talking, and obviously they didn't talk, they argued. The mom agreed with everything that the two girls were saying, and she kind of told my mom that she had to stop being a chismosa, and that's why their daughters were bullying me, because she did hear that my mom was talking smack about both of them. So I just looked at my mom like, did you really like, you know, like giving her that eye, like, did you really talk about them, that, you know, we're in this situation now? But that talk was very pointless, because they kept doing it. So we come home, and I remember that night, it was one of the hardest nights for me, because I knew that if I went back to school, they were gonna keep pushing me and bullying me and embarrassing me in front of so many people. So I remember that my mom, we still weren't very into God and all of that, but we did believe in God. We believed in a God that listened to prayers. And I remember that I just couldn't stop crying, because I was so much in fear. I was so much in fear of getting bullied again, and things going to the extreme of me getting beat up, because I was a stick, mis pollas. I was so skinny, and I was like, oh my God, like, I've never fought anyone, and I don't want this to get to another level. And I remember that I couldn't stop crying, and my mom came to lay down with me, and I remember she was like, do you want to pray, and that way things can get better for you? And I told her yes, and we did like a little prayer. Sorry, mis pollas, this is the first time I am remembering these things, and it's so hard. So I remember my mom started praying, and we started praying together, and we started crying, and we just hugged each other so tight. And I was like, Mom, I don't want to get beat up. I'm scared of what's gonna happen if I keep going to school and seeing these girls. And she was like, just try to avoid them. If you meet Paula there in front of the library, just go to another spot, tell Paula this, Paula knows the situation, so go meet her somewhere else. And I took her advice and everything. And I remember I was like, I always avoided those girls as much as I could. But the school is small, of course. So I got really scared. My mom got really scared to the point that I came home one day and she told me she was going to move me high schools, and she had already made up her mind, and she was scared for me and she couldn't sleep, just thinking of what could happen to me. So I was going to be transferred to Tracy High. And literally, I got so freaking sad. I was like, no. It was hard enough for me to make the few friends that I have in high school right now, and it was like I have to start all over again with the friends and all of that. So I was like, no, please don't move me. I don't want to move. I want to stay at West. All of like the few friends that I have, and even Kenya, my cousin, they're there, and I don't want to move schools because who am I going to talk to at Tracy High? I don't have any friends. I did used to have a few cousins in Tracy High, but what do you know? Things weren't like, we didn't have the same lunch I didn't have the same lunch with my cousins. I did know a few people over there, but they were kind of like, we all changed. We all went into our own little path. So, it was just so hard. And I was like, man, I have to start all over again. Like, I can't. So my mom moved me to Tracy High, and I literally went to like for half a year over there to Tracy High. And let me just say, it was like, out of like my whole years of school, it was like the hardest half a year of my life. When I started Tracy High, I tried my best to ask all of my cousins and my past friends from middle school. I had one of my friends that used to be my best friend. And then I used to have one of my other friends, his name was Juan, and both of them used to go to Tracy High, and I'm like, oh, I should be okay, you know, they're gonna talk to me, they're gonna be great, just like in middle school. And they obviously had different lunches, different classes. It was just the opposite. Like, all of them it was just me, you know. So when I try to talk to them, like, I kind of just didn't fit in. Something about me just didn't fit in. You could kind of say I didn't trust anyone, but I did try my hardest for me to try to fit in, making friends with them and try to get along with their friends too, as well as with my cousins. Sometimes they did used to like kick it with me when they see me, but it was like everybody had their own circle already made up. And you know, obviously the new girl was just weird and hairy, and she just was something else. So it was really hard for me to fit in, and I never did. So I used to feel very lonely, and when I used to come, like, I couldn't wait to get out of school to come home and, you know, not try to fit in and just stay in my room. And my mom would always ask me, oh, so how'd it go? How's it going? And I'm just like, I used to just tell her to not worry her. Oh, it's all going okay. Oh, it's going good. Or, you know, just make up kind of like stories or whatever. There were times that I was just really happy because my cousins used to walk. We used to walk to my auntie's house, and that's when I used to socialize even more. But during school, I felt so lonely. There was this time that it was lunchtime, and I remember that for no one to see me sit alone and being a loner, you could kind of say, I used to have this one art class, and I used to go to that teacher's class, and I used to tell her if I could stay and just, you know, work on my projects. And she used to tell me, oh, you're not gonna go get lunch? And I used to tell her, no, you know, like, I just want to keep working on this. I want to finish it. And sometimes she would tell me like, oh, but I have to go get lunch. So, you know, like, you can't you can stay here for a little bit, but not all through lunch. So that would devastate me. Like, I was like, oh my God, where should I go? You know, but I used to go get lunch in the cafeteria. But once I seen everyone in their little circle, it used to get me so sad. Like, who should I go talk to? You know, who should I go and start socializing with? And I was like, oh my God, like, if I start just talking to someone, I know they're gonna think that I'm hecka weird. So I remember one day it was so bad that I was like, oh my God, I felt like a loner. Well, I was a loner, but I was so lonely that I remember that it got to me so bad. Like, I kind of want to say that I got an anxiety attack. I really did, because I just didn't know where to walk. I didn't know what little corner to sit at or anything. And I literally had like a big knot in my throat. And I remember that day, that day I was like, oh my God, where should I go? So I thought about the bathroom, you know, and I was like, nobody's gonna see me there. So I remember that I went into the restroom and I closed the door. I sat on the toilet and I just started bawling because I felt so lonely. And I wanted to cry so bad, mis pollas. Like, I wanted to cry like loud, you know. But I remember that what I did, I covered my mouth and I just started crying and crying, and I was like, I started talking to myself like what is my life always gonna be like this? Like, I'm gonna get bullied all the time. I remember so many things went into my head. Like, I don't know what to do about my situation. Like, am I ever gonna be a cool girl? I didn't want to go to school. I really didn't. But I had to go to school, and I remember that my dad used to tell me that I could go through it, and it was just a little bit until, like, I remember that I told my mom, Mom, please tell me that next year I'm going back to West High, because I don't want to be at Tracy High anymore. Like, nobody talks to me. Nobody, like yeah, I talk to my cousins and everything after school, but during like the whole day, like, I'm lonely, and I miss Paola. I miss like the people that are at West that I used to talk to. And yeah, it's a little bit of people, but I miss them. And at West, I didn't feel as lonely, you know. And that little corner bathroom at Tracy High was, because I feel like it was my escape room, and I would always just cover my mouth and cry in that restroom. I do want to say that a lot of times it got so bad that I did have suicidal thoughts, or even thoughts of me cutting myself and stuff. And it was so bad. It was one of the hardest years of my high school years when I went to Tracy High. And the days used to go so slow to me. And it's crazy how bullies bully. And for these two girls to bully me, it took me to the situation of my mom moving me schools. And a lot of the times, a lot of people don't know what is it that the kid that is getting bullied goes through. And I want to say that if it wasn't for believing in myself sometimes, of, you know, you're gonna get through this one day and you're gonna laugh at it. I feel like I would have never made it, mis pollas. And it was like, at that time in my freshman year, I did have a boyfriend, but I never used to really tell him details about how I felt at Tracy High. He was more like, sometimes I did talk to him, but like, he was like my secure blanket of feeling loved. But inside of me, in those moments, I did have my suicidal thoughts. I did have a lot of depression. I was very insecure with myself. I was very unhumble. I had a really bad attitude. I started being rebellious in so many ways with my parents. And I want to say that due to the bullying that I got, and it wasn't as bad. If I really think about it, it wasn't as bad as the videos that I see now on Facebook of how kids get bullied, of how they get mistreated and all of that. But it did affect me. It did affect the way I thought about myself. And bullying can get you to that. It could get you to think very bad about yourself. It can get you to depression. It could get you to wanting to kill yourself. And I wished that somebody would have talked to me about someone that really did care about me. And that is Jesus Christ, you know? Like, if you guys have followed me, you guys know that I am a big believer of God. And I think that if I would have known more about God in those days, and about the Bible, and about me having a relationship with him, which I always did, you know, but I never had that motivational person to talk to me, that I could get through it, that, you know, I could talk to people about my situation so I won't feel as depressed as, you know, with my suicidal thoughts and all of that. So I wish somebody would have talked to me about God. That's the thing. Like, I totally did. And now that I'm older, I'm like, man, like, those days were really hard. And if I would have known about God, I think I would have had a little faith, and I wouldn't have cared about what people thought about me. And I could have been more sociable. I could have done 1,000 things differently. But I feel like all of those things that I went through are things that made me stronger. But I do want to say that I am telling you guys my story not for you guys to feel bad for me, or for me trying to act like the victim here, but because these things go around the world every single day, and more kids have it worse till now than what I had it back then. So how did I get through my bullying? So the way that I got through my bullying, once I got back, because once I finished my freshman year at Tracy High, I remember that I went back to West, and I did tell my mom that I wanted a counselor, because I was always a very shy, conservative person of my feelings. But I heard about, like, I remember that I talked to this one girl when I went back to West High, and she told me that she talked to her counselor, and her counselor would give her really good advice, you know. So I remember I told my mom if she could go into the office and request for me to talk to one of the counselors at school. And I remember that counselor that I used to have, she was okay. She was okay. She didn't make me think more less than of myself. So she did help me in my confidence side a little bit, between coming back from the end of my freshman year to I want to say like my sophomore year. I kind of like started gaining my confidence again. I started being a little more sociable, a little more open, but I was still not myself. I was still not my own person. I still wanted to try to fit in, but things and days got better than what I went through in Tracy High. How did my parents dealt with my bullying? Did I ever talk to them? I did. I did talk to my parents, but not as much. I never told them 100% of how I felt and what I was going through, because like I said, I never liked worrying my parents. They already had enough worries to worry about. And if I were to give you guys advice, I would say talk to your parents. Your parents are your best friends. They're the ones that are going to help you out way more. Sometimes it can get hard, especially if you don't talk to your parents like on an everyday basis. But I do want to say that talking to your parents does help a lot, and they're always there with an ear open to hear you, mis pollas. So go talk to your parents. Tell them what you're going through. Tell them that you don't feel comfortable, and if it doesn't have to go to the extreme where they have to change your schools, just like what my mom decided. But I feel like now that I'm older, I feel like that was like the best decision that my mom could have taken for me, because I feel like if I would have stayed there at school, I don't know if things would have gotten any worse, but I feel like they could have, and I could have gotten to another level. So like, just go talk to your parents. If you don't want to talk to your parents, talk to a counselor. Remember that your best friend is always going to be yourself, and try to look for a youth group at your local church. Do you want to say that if you are getting bullied, keep strong. You could do it. Protect your peace. Talk to God. Forgive. Forget. Feel confident. And have so much respect within yourself and with others. Don't hate. Love more. And talk to those that love you and that are right in front of you, because you don't need anyone else. You have amazing people that just surround you within your own household. You have your mom, you have your dad, and if you don't have your mom and your dad, then talk to God. God can be a very good friend, and trust me, when you talk to God, He does listen to prayers. And I have experienced that, and I wish somebody would have gave me these motivational words that I'm telling you, mis pollas, now. And always be yourself. Don't try to be like nobody else. Just remember, mis pollas, just be confident between yourself. Never give up, and always keep dreaming. And life is beautiful if you make it beautiful. Have a passion within yourself and do what you love. Don't ever get discouraged from others trying to discourage you in ways that in the future won't matter. So just take it. If you're having a bad time right now, just take it as a lesson, or as something that God is trying to mold you in, and trying to open a more beautiful door, and try to make you strong, and try to make you more humble. God always has a reason what He makes you go through. I really hope this video was helpful, and at the same time, you guys didn't get bored with my story. There's so many things that I did go through and that I could mention here on this video, but this is a little bit of what I went through. But if you guys like these kind of story times, don't forget to comment down below and let me know what is it that you guys thought about this story time. And if you're getting bullied, I would love to hear your stories and try to help you guys out as much as I can. And also, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more notifications of my latest videos. And with all that being said, las quiero bien mucho, mis pollas. Keep your head up, and I'll talk to you guys on my next video.